Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Namaduhu wa nasalli ala Rasulil al-Kareem. Viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Continuing with the series, Tablighi Jamaat, a global movement, it is important to mention that Tablighi Jamaat is the only religious organization in the whole world that has global reach. It goes to all parts of the world, and this is a testimony, this is a clear proof that the message of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is for all mankind, for all times to come. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's message is for the benefit of humanity, and Tablighi Jamaat understands that this message has to be delivered in person. It has to go from place to place, making sacrifices. This is the only organization in the whole world that spend their own money, go through sacrifices, hardships, and also take a lot of criticism from people who oppose this activity. It's not a regional activity, it's not a national thing. It is to show that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rabbil Alameen, and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is Rahmatul lil Alameen. He's a mercy to all mankind. So the message is not just for one particular national group, one particular region. It is a universal message, and it shows the universality of Islam. It is the need of all mankind to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the human being, who knows the past, the present, the future, and who has sent his book, the Quran, for guidance of all mankind. So the Tablighi Jamaat takes that very seriously. This message has to be delivered. Whether people come to it or not, it is up to Allah. Allah is the one who guides. The Jamaats are not there to guide people, but they are there to deliver the message, so they can stand before Allah and say that Allah, we've tried to follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When the message came to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he did not rest. He went out to people, he went to their homes, he went to their bazaars, he went to the shops. He talked to the people and he delivered the message. And after he spent 23 years delivering the message was then delivered to mankind through his companions, his Sahaba. And they traveled different parts of the world. Most of them are buried in places far away from their homeland. And what were they doing over there is obviously to deliver the message. They did not go to conquer lands. They didn't go to oppress people. They didn't go to rule over people. They went there with only one concern, and that was to save mankind from self-destruction. And that's the same spirit of the Tablighi Jamaat. This is a collective effort. It's not effort of any one particular individual. During the history of Islam, there have been great scholars, great people, very knowledgeable in Deen, who made great efforts, but those were individuals. This is an effort that has come into existence after centuries, where every common person, whether he's educated or uneducated, whether he is rich, poor, this work is being done by people of all classes, of all races, of all languages. And this is enough living proof that Islam is not just the monopoly of any particular race. It is for all mankind. Whoever takes the guidance from Allah will benefit from Allah. The Tablighi Jamaat is moving all over the world at their own expense. There is no government, there is no agency, there is no organization that funds their travels or funds their activities. It's all work of individuals. Generally speaking, organizations, parties, they are funded by people, and the effort is to get into power. The Tablighi Jamaat doesn't have any aspirations for getting into power. They don't have any aspirations for making money from people. They have no aspiration. The only goal is to deliver the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to invite them to Allah, not to themselves. And this is another very big difference. Some people make objections as to what why their activities are international, why they travel overseas, why they don't stay in their locality. They think that they're doing very good work, they are very good people, but they should not move from place to place. But they don't understand that this is following in the footsteps of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He moved from place to place. Wherever he could go, he moved. And he kept making that effort. And the same thing was done by Sahaba. So this is following in the footsteps. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He did not wait for people to come to him. He didn't make announcements that he's going to give a lecture on Islam and people should come and listen to his lecture. He himself went just like any common person. And that was the same methodology that the Sahaba followed. They didn't wait for people to come. This was an effort that was done by them, and the Tablighi Jamaat is simply copying that, is simply imitating that effort. So their travel from one place to another, or one country to another, is not an innovation, it's not something new. And it should be applauded. Instead of being criticized, it should be applauded. And another criticism is that they leave their homes and their wives and their children and their families, and they travel far away from the lands. But no criticism is made of people who go for the sake of worldly benefits. When their jobs require them to leave their families and go for training or some assignment, they very gladly do that. And everybody, including the family, is happy because they're there to make money. They're there for their job improvement, so to speak. So we know in matters of worldly interest, people travel all the time and spend months, and in some cases years, to better their education and for worldly reasons, in other words. But when the Jamaat goes for 40 days, people start raising objections. Why these people are going from place to place? Because it's gone out of the system of the Muslim Ummah to travel for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they travel for their own sake, for the travel of their families, then it is not considered bad. But when it's done for Allah, then it is considered to be very strange. So this is one of the very common objections. And another very common objection is that when they go out, they read the book Faza'il, and instead of reading the Quran, they read the Faza'il. But once again, this kind of criticism or objection is made by people who don't understand this work, who have never participated in this work, because the reading of this book, Faza'il, actually encourages people to read the Quran, to read. Many people have become hufaz, many people have become qaris, many people have become scholars of Islam, because this book, the Faza'il, actually talks about the benefits of doing the amal. So if they look at the book inside, it talks about the benefits of making salat, the benefits of making salat in the masjid, the benefits of doing nawafil, the benefits of tahajjud, the benefits of extra optional prayers. So this encourages the people who are going with the Jamaat. They spend 40 days or 4 months or whatever time they do. They come back feeling very, very energized, and they start doing that amal. So if this book makes people start doing these things, it should be applauded and not criticized. So a lot of people think that the Tablighi Jamaat don't read the Quran, they just read Faza'il, and that's the focus of their intention. But they do not understand that this book has encouraged people because it has thousands of hadiths that tell people the benefits. You see, the Quran is a book that gives the order. It tells to perform salat. It tells perform hajj, to do fasting. But if the Quran was to go into details as to all the benefits, it would be in many, many volumes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the order in the Quran, but the details are in the Hadith, in the Sunnah. And this book, Faza'il, that's used in the Jamaat, is for encouraging people to do these amal. How many people's lives have changed because they have found out for the first time what are the benefits. A lot of times people read the Quran, they do salat, but they don't know the benefits of that. When they start reading the hadith and they start reading the benefits, then they become very regular and it encourages them. So that objection is also not valid because they don't understand that this is actually bringing them closer to the Quran. It's bringing them closer to the ways of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And another objection, if you want to call that, is that these people are not scholars. They're not educated. And once again, the scholars are always few in number. And the scholars, of course, should instruct people about the deen. But the work has to be done on an international level, and there are not enough scholars at any time to travel all over the world. And they may not have the means. But in this case, it's the ordinary people. It's the doctors, the lawyers, the professors, the plumbers, the carpenters, you name it. It's anybody who feels that he wants to get the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has an opportunity. And while he's going there, he's learning. He's learning and teaching. Whatever he's learning, he's teaching that. And of course, scholars do not have that time. They may not have that ability. So because Islam is universal, it is for all times, for all mankind. There's not enough scholars in the world to go to all parts of the world. So this activity is actually very helpful to bringing people. How many people have become scholars because of this work? People who were far away from Islam, people who never did any salat in their whole life. People didn't even know the kalima. But they came into contact with these people. They saw their simple lifestyle. And they changed their ways. They changed their thinking. And another very important thing people don't understand is that this activity brings people to the right thinking, the thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given in the Quran. Because people's thinking is that if they have power, if they have money, if they have position, if they have numbers, then they will be successful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that Pharaoh had power, but his power could not save him. Qarun had wealth, his wealth could not save him. Haman had position, his position could not save him. And the other nations, they had numbers, they had powers, they had strength, but all that did not save them. When the punishment of Allah came, they were all destroyed. So the thinking that the Quran gives is actually, the Tablighi Jamaat is going to the people with that thinking. They are showing the Quran in action. So when they say they don't read the Quran, they're actually living the Quran. You see, reading the Quran is one thing, living the life of the Quran is another thing. And to show the people the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was the living Quran. He didn't have a book in his hand and distribute it to the people and tell him he'd read it and try to follow it. He actually lived the Quran. The Sahaba lived the Quran. And this is what the Tablighi Jamaat is trying to do. They're trying to live the Quran. And to motivate people to live the Quran, they're calling people to the massages. They come there, spend time, in the hope that these people, their thinking will change. Their lives will change. And this is for all mankind. This is not just for any particular region. So this work is not a regional effort. It's not a national effort. If this was a national effort, then it would have remained in that country. Because it's international, it's universal, it's being done by people all over the world. Wherever the Jamaats go, they go with this intention to make people start doing the work of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People don't understand that this is not a new work. This is not a work of any new organization. This is the work of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was not done for many centuries. This is a revival of that effort. And people who make these objections should look into the practices and see what's being done. When these people go out in the work, they go out to learn the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and try to pass this on to the others. This activity is very essential. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's message is for benefit of mankind. This is the best humanitarian effort. People doing a lot of humanitarian work. They're distributing food and clothes and doing a lot, but they forget that the greatest effort is to save mankind from self-destruction. This is why when the Jamaats go in their talks, the first thing that's mentioned is success of this life and the next life lies in the obedience to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as shown by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So people should know what is success. The thinking right now is success is if you get money and if you get power, if you had the material things, you are successful. But this life is going to end sooner or later. And a life is going to start which will never end. And how many people, how many organizations, how many groups are talking about that? Allah is talking about that life. And the reason is that this life is only important because of that life. That life depends on what people do in this life. If in this life they didn't keep their akhirah in mind, they would be losers like Pharaoh, Haman, Qarun. These people had everything of this life, but they lost their akhirah because they got distracted. This is the shaitan's work is to distract people from the reality. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps reminding people about the reality. The reality is that life is coming and people have to prepare. But if people keep talking about this reality, the short reality, for a very short time, then they get distracted from the reality which is coming. And who has to mention that? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spent 23 years talking to people about that reality. And he told them how to prepare for that reality. And his companions, his followers, they did the same thing. Even though power came to them, they became rulers, the wealth came to them, but they were not distracted. They kept working because they knew that a life is coming and preparation for that life has to be made in this life. So this is basically the message of the Tablighi Jamaat. It's not a new message. The people who are doing it, they understand what this message is. When they spend time, they make sacrifices, they leave their homes, they leave their families, they make enormous sacrifices, and because of their sacrifices, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spreads guidance. Wherever the Jamaats have gone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought guidance to those people because of the sacrifices. And sacrifices can be made by everybody. This is a misconception that only scholars can do. Scholars can teach people who want to learn. There are madrasas, there are institutions, and these places are only used by those people who have an interest. But what about the people who have no interest in learning? So just like in worldly matters, when people want to market their goods, they go out to the people, they advertise, they go door to door and make people realize that they need this is for their benefit. So in worldly matters, people understand that it's okay for people to make visits to the houses and to go from place to place to market. Just look at these big international corporations. They started in one locality and they spread all over the world because they kept thinking how to expand their business. So their goal was to expand their business. In this, the goal is not to expand the business. In the work of Tablighi Jamaat, the goal is to save mankind from self-destruction. And this message is essential for every single human being. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give all of us the understanding of this work. Wa akhir dawana in alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.